Time now is 6 p.m. Call this meeting in order. Joint Committee, Business, Finance, and Justice, Land, Natural Resource, and Cultural Preservation. Today is December 12th. Invocation, I'd like to ask Representative Harjo if you'd offer that for us this evening.
Let us pray. Father God, we always give you thanks for this time that we're allowed to come to do business with the nation. We just ask that as we go through these proceedings, Lord, that you would just be with us and be with the thoughts and just be with the decisions that we make. Just bless them, Lord. Again, just continue to watch over us as we are here, and then for those who are traveling to come to the next meeting, Lord, we just ask that your protective hand would be upon them. We give you thanks for all this. In your precious name we do pray.
Next, we have roll call Legislative Clerk Tracy Knobloch.
Randall Hicks.
Present.
Thompson Yahela Osborne.
Present.
Patrick Freeman Jr.
Here.
Sandra Golden.
Present.
Mark Randolph.
Present.
Charles McHenry.
Here. Joseph
Hicks. Gerald Proctor.
Here.
Galen Cloud. Nelson Harjo.
Here.
Chairman, you have 8 in attendance and 2 absent.
8 present, 2 absent. Establishes a quorum. Any business conducted this evening to be official. Next that we have is approval of minutes for November 6, 2023.
Chairman, this is Thomasine.
Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of November the 6th, 2023 with any necessary changes.
Motion been made to approve the minutes for November 6, 2023 with the approved changes.
Okay.
Seconded by Representative McHenry. Roll call.
Thomasine Yahela Osborne.
Yes.
Patrick Freeman.
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Charles McHenry.
Yes.
Nelson Harjo.
Yes.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Chairman, you have 7 in favor and 0 against.
7 in favor, 0 against. Those minutes have been approved. Down to order of business. First item we have is TR 23-127, a tribal resolution of Muscogee Creek Nation certifying broadband availability and affordability within the Muscogee Creek Nation Reservation. Sponsor Sandra Golden.
Chairman, I make a motion for a due pass.
Motion for due pass by Representative Golden.
Second.
Second by Representative Osborne. Discussion.
I think Mr. Michael White was online. Is he available to discuss this?
Yes, ma'am. This legislation is part of the Tribal Broadband Connectivity Program grant application. They allow tribes to self-certify areas that may have discrepancies in the served status of broadband availability throughout the reservation. And as part of that, we are working on certifying these areas and deconflicting those with what the FCC shows as being covered with affordable and high-speed broadband service. And the grant requires that to be certified through this tribal resolution.
Okay, all right, thank you. Do we have any questions from committee? Yes, go ahead, Representative Harjo.
Mr. White, I know there was some thoughts about whether or not if we were going to be able to get a bigger grant. And I think a lot of that was due to maybe what our auditing was looking like. And so I was just wondering if what we're doing here and some of the other things, are we going to still be able to get the one grant that we were hoping to receive?
I'll defer to Secretary Harjo to answer that question right now.
Okay, thank you.
It's a representative. To answer that question, sorry, I'm trying to multitask right now. I'm on travel for self-governance, but to answer that question, we are looking to make an investment that should come before council, hopefully before month end, on a requested emergency special session. It's of the utmost importance to make a timely investment in our finance department, as well as all of the departments that help manage the single audit, as well as we hope to rectify a lot of the findings in the 21 audit that was recently completed prior to the 22 audit and prior to the 23 audit completion. But yeah, there is still a plan in place to get the audit done quickly as possible, so that doesn't jeopardize federal funding opportunities. But this is, again, that will be an investment necessary to be made in the finance department, as well as some supporting departments that help out with the audit, including the Secretary of the Nation, as we manage the grants department. Beyond that, it is still a concern to get the audit completed as soon as possible. But again, I've been working across departments to try to put together a plan, as well as a budget to support the additional contract support that we might need to get the audit completed in time, as well as to compensate employees that are working overtime for the 21 audit, as well as the 22 and 23 audit.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. We have any other comments or questions?
Chairman, this is Sandy Golden.
Yes, go ahead.
I have a question for Mr. White. In regard to your plan, this is for underserved areas. So would you estimate maybe that the southern borders of Creek Nation would be a priority for these services?
Yes, ma'am. I'm more than happy to share the mapping with you all as soon as we finalize the deconfliction on some of the addresses, but the lion's share of this grant and the planning is going towards Hughes, McIntosh, and Okfuskee counties, because those are the most underserved. Particularly Hughes is the most underserved of the counties in the reservation at this time. And so there's two aspects to this grant. Most of the fiber and fiber to the home availability is going to be focused in those areas, but there is going to be a broader wireless coverage that should augment much of the service throughout the larger portion of the reservation. But yes, to answer your question, the majority of this is going to be targeted at those three counties.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman.
All right, thank you. Secretary Harjo, I see you have your hand raised.
Yes, I just add to Mr. White's comments that to be clear, all of the pending funding that the nation is pursuing, whether it's related to broadband, wireless, or fiber, none of it is eligible in the Tulsa area as it's already served. So every single initiative that we take on, whether it's funded through our own ARPA plans or grant funding that we procure, all must, by definition, target the rural areas of the reservation, which is primarily the central and southern borders of the reservation.
Okay, thank you. Have any more comments or questions? Questions from council and the audience or online? Hearing none. Roll call vote.
Sandra Golden,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Charles McHenry,
Yes.
Nelson Harjo,
Yes.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Thomasina Hella Osborne,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman.
Yes.
Chairman, you have 7 in favor and 0 against.
7 in favor and 0 against, that motion passes. Concludes order of business. Now we're in other business. Have a couple of items in other business.
Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, Representative Randolph.
I'd like to make a motion to add NCA 23-161 and NCA 23-162 to the agenda.
Motion been made by Representative Randolph to add 23-161 and NCA 23-162 to the agenda.
Second.
Seconded by Representative Osborne. Roll call.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Charles McHenry. Yes. Nelson Harjo,
Yes.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Thomasina Hella Osborne,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Chairman, you have 7 in favor and 0 against.
7 in favor and 0 against. That motion passes and be added to the agenda this evening. Another business. The first item we do have is NCA 23-161. The law of Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing expenditure of American Rescue Plan Act ARPA physical relief funding for the benefit of Muskogee Creek Nation Recreation Department playing fields located at Claude Cox Omniplex in Okmulgee, Oklahoma. Sponsor is Mark Randolph.
Motion to pass.
Motion for due pass by Representative Randolph,
Second.
seconded by Representative McHenry. Discussion.
Harjo, would you like to comment on this?
Sure. So this legislation was presented by the Recreation Department. There are a number of developments they wanted to add to the Muskogee Dome as well as the Claude Cox Omniplex Center. I believe both of these fall under the ICDBG new provision of eligibility for the American Rescue Plan Act. Considering the nation already owns that property and we are developing for an enhanced commercial and public use of the space. So I believe both pieces of legislation hinge on the ICDBG related portion of the new eligibility. They're both similar requests to, again, to develop existing infrastructure that the nation owns and operates.
Okay, thank you. We have any questions from committee? Oh, yes, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Harjo, since you're online, we've been spending a lot of money from ARPA in the last couple of months, and I have asked in the past for a report on how much funds are left and what are we going to do with it since we have a planning department. Are there, number one, what are the availability of funds? Number two, has the planning department come up with a plan on how to expend the remainder of these funds?
Yes, as you've made that request, Ms. Golden, we provided a number of updates to both the legislative branch as well as the executive branch. I intend on providing another update before the month end. As previously mentioned in a number of legislative sessions we've had in the last several months, about a number of pending amendments that need to be completed for each of the pieces of legislation for 21 and 22, namely for consistency in the methodology used and the language used to craft the legislation as it is. And then beyond that, yes, the planning department has been integrated at every step of the way in the past 3 to 5 months as we've put together a process to be able to expend the funds according to the eligibility as provided by Treasury. The master plan, so to speak, doesn't necessarily exist because the uses of the funds are very broad and varying, and there's the new guidance issued that changed the nature of the type of projects that could be funded and eligible. Namely, there's been a number of projects that were ineligible prior to the new interim final rule that was instituted about 2 months ago. So all of those, I guess, conditions create a very fluid and constantly moving environment when we move to appropriate funds. But yes, the planning department has been involved for every step of the way, especially in the last 2 months, and has helped create a path forward to both modify existing legislation to make sure that it's 100% coherent with the final rule and the interim final rule as stated by Treasury. And beyond that, to have a clear and accurate picture of how much funds remain. And the primary reason why we haven't fully issued a hard number on the funds yet is because a number of the largest programs that the nation appropriated funding through, namely DA1, DA2, and the vaccine incentives, those do not expire per legislation until the end of December 31st, 2024. And so once they expire, it will necessitate an amendment in their legislation, probably the very beginning of January or before the end of the month, to reflect the actual per dollar cost for each of those programs. And at that time, we'll have a much more accurate reading as to how much funds remain. Between now and then, though, I can provide light updates to the legislature about how much we anticipate in funds to reappropriate and obligate before the end of 2024.
Chair, thank you, Mr. Harjo. I would just like to say, when I did request the reports, there were supposed to be 2 reports in the past that we were supposed to receive, and we never received them. We received one that was incomplete and told it was gonna be completed. And the other one was online somewhere, and he could not download it for us, or for me, or whomever. And so it's, to me, if we're the stewards of these funds, we should have some kind of information to go by, rather than just someone's word. And it's really difficult for me to say, yes, we're just gonna spend another 3 million on something, you know, and have it come back on us and then say, oh, we shouldn't have done that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Representative Golden. Mr. Harjo, hand is raised.
Thank you, Representative. In my opinion, that's flat out inaccurate. You have been provided the spreadsheets that we operate to predict the numbers that we operate off of, and the number, or the reason why you were not provided with the most recent, or at the time you requested, the most recent submitted Treasury report is because it is not downloadable. Treasury closes those reports out once we submit them within a curing period. If you want, we can submit the most recent report to you that we submitted in Treasury that was downloaded. But in either case, they do reflect the most accurate numbers and what we reported to Treasury beyond the legislative amendments. And we constantly provided updates over that overall amount, both to the executive office and to council.
Representative Golden, any comments?
Yes, sir, thank you. I was just going to say that what he said, I have not seen it, so it could have gone to someone else, and I've still not seen it. So that's where I'm coming from. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
thank you, sir. Do we have anybody from Recreation online? I'm just curious as to what the revision is. If this passes, what's the revision? I mean, why are they wanting the artificial turf?
I don't believe we have anybody online from that department.
I don't know if Mr. Harjo can answer that or not, since it's really not his department, but
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Harjo.
Yes, I am more aware of this program than I am of some of the other requests. It became eligible after the ICDBG eligibility was provided to ARPA recipients, as I mentioned about 2 months ago. And so originally this request wasn't eligible because the response in terms of recreation requesting these type of investments needed to be proportional to the economic harm that they experienced. And so the economic harm that recreation identified, particularly during the public health emergency, was a reduction in revenue from hosting games as well as outdoor events, tournaments, softball tournaments, basketball tournaments, things like that. And so the addition of the lights allows for more playability for longer hours of the day, and the addition of the turf allows for more flexibility regardless of the weather. A standard field, even if well manicured, requires days sometimes to recover from a particularly heavy rainstorm, versus the turf oftentimes can be ready to play and compete on within a number of hours. And so originally Recreation had put forward these requests under the original eligibility of under ARPA, and because the nature of both requests exceeded their economic harm, I believe their economic harm was something on the order of several $100,000, but whereas both of these requests are in excess of that amount, we were unable to move forward with investment or proposal at that time. Provided the ICDBG eligibility created new opportunities, then this type of a request became more, I guess, feasible, as well as the numbers that they project to host softball tournaments, basketball tournaments, and a bunch of other outdoor events with the new lights, as well as the proposed fields, in addition to it just bolstering kind of the outdoor amenities that the Omniplex offers to support the Muskogee Nation Festival, among other items.
Yes,
Okay.
go ahead.
I don't think he answered my question, but kind of went, I mean, he did get some information, but I was just curious of why that department is requesting this. There's nobody here to discuss it, but I don't know. What about the maintenance? What about the maintenance of the, who's going to take, I mean, I know the department's going to take care of it. Are they going to be trained? And then is that going to reduce their staff over there? Because you no longer need people to cut grass and such, so.
From my understanding, the turf is much more easy to maintain and would allow, I guess, more flexibility in the staff to be flexed over to other jobs that may not be able to be invested in terms of time. The other reason for the request for the lights is that the current lighting is blighted in that not all of them are fully functional. And again, the range of and time of day presents an issue from what I've been told. And then additionally, like I said, one of the big reasons why they requested to move to turf is just because of the maintenance and upkeep that regular fields do present to the staff at the current time. Versus the turf, like I said, would result in a reduction, I believe, in the overall maintenance and hours in labor spent on maintaining the turf.
So do we have projected revenues?
That would be a question for recreation, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you.
All right, maybe if it makes it to the session Saturday, we can have them to be attending and we can ask questions. All right. Yes, Representative McHenry? Okay.
He asked a question.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yes, go ahead, one more.
Yeah, well, I just would like to ask the sponsor. I mean, I'm in favor of it because if it's done right, I do foresee the department or the tribe making money eventually off of this if it's done correctly. So I'd like to ask the sponsor if I could be a co-sponsor.
Okay, no objections.
Thank you. That's
All right, thank you.
Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, in regard to the last question, one of my understandings is that turf requires special equipment to clean it and keep it clean. If there's a rain and there's mud, you have to make sure that the mud, because it's hard to get it out, as well as gum and candy. So you have to really have security or something in order to keep people off the turf with those kinds of things on their shoes. So maybe they can answer that question as well if they're going to be there Saturday. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments or questions from committee? Council online or in the audience? Okay, hearing none. Roll call vote.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Charles McHenry.
Yes.
Nelson Harjo.
Yes.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Thomasini Hella Osborne.
Yes.
Patrick Freeman.
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
No?
You have 6 in favor and 1 against.
We have 6 in favor and 1 against. That motion passes. Next item we have is NCA 23-162. Law Muskego Creek Nation authorizing. Law Muskego Creek Nation authorizing expenditure of American Rescue Plan Act ARPA physical relief funding for the benefit of Muskego Creek Nation Recreation Department to replace and install new lighting for the playing fields located at the Claude Cox Omniplex in Okmulgee, Oklahoma. Sponsors Mark Randolph.
Motion to pass.
Motion for due pass by Representative Randolph. Seconded by Representative McHenry. Discussion.
Chair, I don't have any discussion unless anyone has a question. The only one we have is Mr. Harjo to answer.
All right, thank you. Anybody have any comments or questions? Yes, go ahead.
I guess when we look at things like this, even from the turf and to better lighting, I know that last year, the county tournament that we normally have at the Dome we wasn't able to do that because I think there were some things that were happening with the floor, and so the tournament was spread throughout Okmulgee and Beggs and other little gyms. And, now that we have our floor ready, I'm looking forward to being over here at our Dome for that particular county tournament. And I think there was a lot of other people looking forward to the same thing because they didn't have to travel back and forth to different gyms. And I'm thinking that in the long run, when we do the turf and the lighting and everything, well, then hopefully we can begin to attract tournaments that are just bigger than just what people rent the fields for, maybe even a, district or state softball tournament from the schools or, wherever it might be. So they'll have a, better place to play, and then they can play through the night and be able to see a lot better. So hopefully in that respect, there'll be, I think there could be a lot more money earned that way, because then there'll be other people that will be coming and looking at our fields. And so that will attract a lot more people and hopefully bring in a lot more revenue in that particular area. So that's one of the reasons why I'm supporting this, is because that's just another avenue that, of a little, well, I say a little upgrade, it's, we're talking over $3 million here, but it's an upgrade that could end up, paying dividends, and probably pay for itself, for too long as we begin to attract those bigger events. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Mr. Harjo, you have your hand raised?
Yes, thank you, Representative. I would just add one last thing. Mr. Hart's comments reminded me that I believe for collegiate softball and possibly baseball, at certain levels, the turf would meet their standard of play, and we'd be able to host, I guess, softball or collegiate softball or baseball tournaments, from what I understand. So that offers a new source of revenue that wasn't possible before without the turf.
Okay, thank you. More comments, questions from committee?
Chairman, this is Thomasine.
Yes, go ahead.
I can't recall when it was, but I know Second Chief, when we had talked about this at one time, he had mentioned that, I don't know whether we reached out to the Spark softball team, or we probably did, but they actually came to look at our fields, but they had stated that our fields weren't what they needed. But if we could do something to better them, then we might be considered to have some games here on their behalf. So I recall Second Chief saying that. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Harjo.
Oh, I apologize. I didn't realize my hand was still up.
Questions from
I didn't
council?
have a further comment. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I meant to say I did not have a further comment.
Okay, all right, thank you. Questions from council online or in the audience? Okay, hearing none, roll call vote.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Charles McHenry.
Yes.
Nelson Harjo.
Yes.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Thomasine Hella Osborne.
Yes.
Patrick Freeman.
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
No.
You have 6 in favor and 1 against.
6 in favor, 1 against. That motion passes. That concludes items and other business. We're down to announcements. Announcements will be having a planning session immediately following. Down to adjournment with benediction, and I'd like to ask Representative Hicks if you could offer our adjournment, which serves our benediction.